what do we think the PLA, the Chinese People's Liberation Army, is learning from Ukraine? Wars never evolve the way the aggressor thinks they will at the beginning of the war, okay? And there are numerous historical examples of this. The German Schlieffenplan in World War I, the Germans and the Japanese in World War II went to war with one set of assumptions and expectations, and something completely different developed. The North Koreans, when they invaded South Korea during the Korean War, the United States intervention in the Vietnam War, and to some extent in Afghanistan. The al-Qaeda attackers on 9/11 expected one outcome. They got something completely different and something I don't think that they really expected. So wars never evolve the way the aggressor in particular thinks they will. The Russians didn't think that West and the Ukrainians had a stomach for a fight. The Russians were wrong. Okay, so that's the first lesson that I think and I hope that the Chinese are learning from this. The second one is a war between the United States and China is going to be a GoPro war. It's going to be live streamed. And the most extreme example I can give you of this is we need to be prepared to watch an aircraft carrier sinking in the South China Sea live stream. Okay? I know if I was an enemy of the United States, that's a visual I'd really want to leave the American people with. So it's going to be live streamed. We need to prepare for that. We need to decide what victory looks like. What does victory look like in the 21st century? We tend to talk about things like reestablishing the status quo and these types of things, but our good friend Lawrence Friedman wrote an excellent article about the age of forever wars, why military strategy no longer delivers victory, whatever that means. But we really have to give some thought to victory. This is a personal one of mine. There are no regional conflicts in the 21st century, okay? All conflicts have global implications to one extent or another. And when it's a conflict between two superpowers or two great power competitors, there are obvious global implications. Let me give you an example. When the war with Ukraine and Russia started, one of the first things that people asked me is, well, what do you think the global implications are? And even before we got to oil and everything else, I mentioned three things. Number one, the price of bread in North Africa is going to go up because they import most of their wheat from Ukraine. Number two, the price of cooking oil is going to go up globally and worldwide. Why? There's a reason that the sunflower is the national flower of Ukraine, because they produce a great deal of sunflower oil that people around the world use for cooking. The third thing is the price of fertilizer in West Africa bought by subsistence farmers is going to triple or quadruple. All three of those things happened. No one anticipated that they were going to happen, but these were global implications to a war ostensibly being fought in Eastern Europe. So there are no regional wars in the 21st century. This one is also a favorite of mine. People talk about, well, what would be the objective of a war for Taiwan between the United States and China? Well, we want to return to the status quo. We're kidding ourselves. If there's a war between China and the United States, there will be no return to the status quo. The world global landscape, economic and security, will be inalterably altered, completely altered, even if it's a short conflict by a war between the United States and China. Just look at how the global landscape has been altered by the war that's been going on between Russia and Ukraine. So we're fooling ourselves if we think there's going to be a return to status quo. Second to last here is never believe your own propaganda. My dad said you can BS the world, just don't believe your own BS, okay? Leaders in authoritarian regimes tend to only hear one side of the story. They tend to only hear what they want to hear. Putin heard what he wanted to hear, from his advisors. He didn't encourage them to challenge his own assumptions and the truth. He believed his own propaganda that the West wouldn't fight, Ukraine wouldn't fight, and ended up in a now 3-year war. All right, next, geography matters. Okay, if we have to fight the Chinese, it's a home game for them. We're the ones that have to transport tons of equipment and hundreds of thousands of people halfway across the world to address the Chinese. So geography does matter. Their logistics lines are interior. They're going to be coming from the mainland out, radiating out from the mainland. We're the ones that have these long, exposed, and very vulnerable supply chains and logistics chains. This is going to be a multi-dimensional war. And what do I mean by that? There's going to be a cyber battlefield, a kinetic terrestrial battlefield, a kinetic subterranean battlefield. We see what's going on in Gaza under the ground. There's going to be a space battlefield, an economic battlefield, and most importantly, an information battlefield. And I would argue that the battle that the Ukrainians won that was most significant was not on the battlefield. It was the information battle that was fought in the early stages of the war that established the Ukrainians as the little guy, the David fighting the Russian Goliath. Okay. The last one I'll share with you is in my last job, as many of you know, I was the director of foreign military sales for the U.S. government. And I would tell you that military technology does not automatically equate to a military capability. The Chinese advances in technology and weapon systems are very impressive, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. That said, training matters, values matter, leadership matters, trust matters. The Russian failures in the early stages of the war, and I would say even up until today, are to a great extent failures of values, failures of leadership, organization, management, and culture, and not necessarily technology and weapon systems. Even in a great power competition, values matter.